Good afternoon, everybody. This is Barry Wood, the Assessment Division Director for the Department of Local Government Finance. We're obviously going to be talking about POP-IN. It's going to be an overview. It's not going to be quite as extensive as the prior POP-IN training sessions that we've done in the past. This is just going to be more of an overview versus a detailed here's how to situation. One thing Jenny didn't mention that I did want to bring up, that this webinar will be good for 1 hour of continuing education credit. And so with the information, the packet that Jenny will send out tomorrow, she'll also send out a continuing education form for this. So it's 1 hour's worth of continuing education credit. So today we're going to talk about what's new for 2022. It's got a nice little rhyme to it. I'll bring up some reminders, and then at the end, we should have plenty of time for questions. So what's new for 2022? Well, one of the biggest things, obviously, is since this is the second year of POP-IN, we now have multi-year filings with the year selection. So a taxpayer could select 2021, or they can select 2022. This can be done manually, or it can be done from the guided form selection on POP-IN. It also includes a roll forward selection. So with this is a taxpayer would select the accepted prior year submission, and they can select one or many of the, say, a single selection, or they can do a multiple selection in the view filings page. Copies of all the details from the prior year are forwarded on. That would be, say, the taxpayer name, address, all the filing information that was populated last year by the taxpayer or the agent, the CPA, would then be forwarded on. The only thing that would not be included would be any attachments. If a taxpayer had included an attachment last year, Form 106 data or information, and also the signature data. So those would not be included from the prior year's filing. That's something the taxpayer, this agent, the CPA would have to complete this year, but everything else would roll forward, so to speak. A new filing ID would be unique for this particular filing, so that would be assigned to the new filing. Also, the view filings also includes a filter, and this filter allows for sorting and looking at some of the action items. You can see, opening it, viewing it, amending it, or deleting the file. Last year, the Indiana General Assembly changed the exemption amount for personal property from $40,000 to $80,000. So this has been updated in POP-IN, as well as for any taxpayer filing by paper return or by POP-IN. So even though a taxpayer may meet that $80,000 exemption threshold, they still need to file a personal property return with your office, be it via POP-IN or if they file a paper return. Another new change or update for POP-IN is with the legend, and we have refactored it to make it a little bit easier to navigate for the user, be it the assessor, the taxpayer, the CPA, the agent, whomever is using the legend key. You can see it moves the identifying information to the top of the legend. It improves the navigation of the page validation for POP-IN. It also includes the year of filing and the personal property ID. The year of filing, that we'll talk about in a little bit, is going to be important because it is possible you could have a taxpayer filing both for 2021 and 2022, or perhaps filing an amended return for 2021. So the year of filing is important. One of the things that we heard frequently from last year from taxpayers and assessors dealt with the taxpayer name. And so we tried to improve this, make this a little bit easier, better. So now the preparer has the ability to edit. And one of the things that was removed or involved with that was a constraint on if you had a taxpayer with a numeric value, say ABC Roman numeral 3 company. Those numeric values were not necessarily part of the filing or were not included, so we've been able to update that to include those. That change, make it a little bit easier for the naming conventions for counties and townships when a taxpayer files. Is it, say is the filing John Jones or Jones John? So hopefully the filing convention has been improved so that now you can incorporate that into your POP-IN filings. The 2022 forms have been updated to reflect the date and other changes. So obviously you would see 2022 on the forms instead of 2021, much like if you were to go to our website and download the forms from our website. And then another change would be, an example would be that $80,000 exemption amount change. In terms of the taxpayer selection, once it's selected, it routes the user to filings, for the subject taxpayer. And as you can see, it pins the selected taxpayer to the top. We did change the deselection button to red to make it a little bit easier for the taxpayer to navigate. After last year's filing, we had received a lot of information from taxpayers, CPAs, agents, assessors, you name it. People responded, and we really appreciate your feedback. But one of the biggest areas of concern or areas that we wanted to improve upon was our communications area. And so you can see, start off with the one thing is there's a 2,000 character limit. And a question that came up earlier today in the morning session was, for the communications tool, is the 2,000 character limit a total, or can you do multiple messages with 2,000 character limits? And so the response or the answer to that question is individual comments are limited to 2,000 characters, but there is no limit to the number of comments, public or private, that can be added. So that is one area that we've tried to expand, make it easier in terms of the communications devices. Part of that involves is a public note or comment, or is it a private note or comment? And public notes are visible to all those that have access, all those authorized to have access. So it could be a taxpayer, it could be an agent, an assessor, a deputy, a DLGF member. Those are public notes, and it's basically open or available to anybody. Whereas private comments are only viewable by the assessor. So taxpayer, agents, DLGF would not have access. That would be private only to the assessor. Private comments can be made public, but not vice versa. And the comment page can be printed, but unfortunately right now it's not yet available in the assessor export function. Also, users in different roles, if they're accessing a filing at the same time, there will be a prompt by a pop-up when the new comments are added. So an example or an analogy would be, if you're familiar with Microsoft Teams, for example, that we use for submitting the annual ratio study. Whenever you communicate within Teams, you receive a notification, a pop-up when a new comment is added. So this is the same type of situation, that if there is a new comment made, that a pop-up would show you that a comment has been added. So saying all that basically boils down to now assessing officials and the user, be it a taxpayer or a CPA or an agent, can basically communicate directly within POP-IN. And as you can see, the assessors have the ability to add private notes for their internal messaging, and also to add public notes to the filer. In regard to the notifications, we've added a legend envelope icon and also a navigation bar bell icon in the comments section. As far as the reports, some changes. Really, there were no changes to current rejected filings or the assessor data export log. However, submitted filings are done by filing year added for 2022. So I mentioned earlier, make sure when you're looking at the returns, you're identifying is it being filed for 2021 or for 2022. In terms of, excuse me, some of the export functionalities, the user must select the desired tax filing year. They can select one, all, or make it user defined. In terms of the export files, one area or issue that came up last year was with the merchant certificate number, and we have changed the character length. We've added 4 characters, and that then lengthens the PP details file. And also the export name now contains the filing ID number. Our help section still is there, and hopefully you would utilize it. We've updated it for 2022. We have a new section on communications and notifications. And one of the key things available for anybody, be it an assessor, a taxpayer, an agent, a CPA, is all of our resources from last year are available on our website, and you can see the URL there. So if you have a new deputy, for example, that's not familiar with POP-IN and they want to learn about POP-IN, they can go to our website and see all the tutorials that we did last year, and certainly all the help information that we've published previously is all available for anybody to review. This year, we wanted to make sure we tried to reach out to the different areas of the state. I know sometimes it can be tough, especially like if you have a statewide webinar like the ones we're doing today, to get questions, specific questions or issues addressed. So next month, we will be hosting what we're calling POP-IN office hours. That will be from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And March 8th will be the first one we'll do for the Northeast District. March 9th will be for the East Central District. March 10th, excuse me, the Southeast District. March 22nd, the Northwest District. And the 23rd will be the West Central, and we'll wrap up on the 24th with the Southwest District. If you're not able to join on your particular district day, that's no problem. We certainly can attend whatever is convenient for your schedule. We do have a registration on our website that Jenny will talk about at the end of the webinar, but this is designed to be primarily for the assessor districts and have personnel available from the DLGF and also from our partners with XOF to be able to provide specific guidance or questions or issues that may come up. So please mark that down for next month, and if you do have any specific issues or questions that we could assist you with. So what are some reminders about POP-IN? I know for a lot of us it's been 8-9 months since we dealt with POP-IN, or gearing up for personal property coming up. First thing is May 16th this year is the filing due date. Normally, obviously, it is May 15th. However, since May 15th is on a Sunday this year, the filing due date is May 16th, and that is effective for both POP-IN filing, and then also if you have a taxpayer filing by a paper return by either mailing it in or walking it in. May 16th is the filing due date for this year. Late last year in November, December, we reached out to all the counties to make sure that you have the people that are accessing POP-IN to make sure the usernames and email addresses are up to date and accurate as possible. So if you have not already done so, please go into POP-IN to make sure that everyone that should be registered or on there is listed. Also, even though a county assessor may delegate a lot of the POP-IN duties, responsibilities to a deputy or someone else in their office, we are asking that each county assessor be registered for POP-IN. There were a lot of things that we learned and heard from assessors, taxpayers, CPAs, agents last year in terms of POP-IN, especially since it was a new program. And one of the key things was, what do I do? How do I review the return? Well, if you're auditing a return, our recommendation is that you should review it like you would for a paper or hard copy return. So if you have a standard operating procedure that you do this step, that step when reviewing a personal property return and a hard copy or a paper return, you should do the same thing for the POP-IN return. So the only difference between POP-IN and a hard copy is that one is electronic and one is a tangible thing you can hold in your hand. You do not need to re-enter the information from the POP-IN filing. We heard stories of assessors that would read, data enter everything that they received from POP-IN into their system. The whole premise or the intent of POP-IN was to eliminate the data entry by the assessor's office, that this would hopefully ensure better accuracy and efficiency, that the assessor would not have to re-key data, all the information into your CAMA system. So please, you do not need to re-enter the information. Certainly you need to make sure the information is correct, and that's part of the assessment auditing process, but you do not need to re-enter the information into your CAMA system. Also, and Wes Bennett wanted me to stress this highly, you do not need to print out a copy of the filing. This is something where society is going more and more paperless, and the intent with POP-IN was to eliminate the need for a paper return. The POP-IN system meets all the requirements for the records retention schedule. It will be available. However, I understand that there are some counties that like to print off a copy of their return and to have it available. However, that is at the discretion of the county. It's something that we would not necessarily endorse, but if you feel comfortable with it, then that's your prerogative. But please know that, save a tree, you do not need to print out a copy of the POP-IN return. There are no new forms for 2022. We still have the 103 long and short, the 103N, 103O, 104, and the 102. And then if needed, taxpayer could file the 106 as well. However, if you have any suggestions for what you would like to see down the road for future years, please let us know. If there's say a 103T or 103P or 103I or any form you think would be beneficial, please let us know, and hopefully we can maybe incorporate that for future year filings. One of the things that we heard from CPAs and agents last year was that CPAs and agents filers have what's called API software, which basically replicates the our current forms, but in their own software. And unfortunately, right now, our system does not allow for the integration of that API software. We are looking into it. We are working with various software developers to see if it is possible to integrate that API software this year. So hopefully it'll be in place, but there's nothing yet. So we are working on the API software. I mentioned earlier, and I'll bring it up again, make sure on the view filing page to differentiate, whether it's a 2022 filing or is it a 2021 filing. And it is possible that you could have, even here in mid-February, you could have somebody filing an original new return for 2021. More than likely it would probably be a 2021 amended filing. So make sure when you're looking at the filing that you do differentiate between the 2 years. If you have any questions about POP-IN, our support at dlgf.in.gov email address would be the best source to contact us. We triage the questions and try and respond as quickly as possible. So please reach out to us with any questions about POP-IN at that support email address you see. If you have any technical questions about POP-IN, Xsoft has field representatives that would be able to answer your questions. Final thing that I did want to stress very strongly, there is no filing fee for 2022. There was no filing fee for 2021, and there's no filing fee for 2022. Our goal is to have 18,000 filings for 2022, and so far to date, we reopened or kicked off POP-IN a month or so ago, and so far to date we've had over 1,000 filings for 2022. So we're well on our way, hopefully, to meeting that 18,000 filing goal. And just to give you a sense of perspective, for 2021 we had over 12,000 accepted filings, personal property filings. So we've upped our goal amount for 2022, and hopefully we'll get there. So with that, I have questions. We received several questions before the webinar, so I'll go through those. And as Jenny indicated, please, if you have questions, type them into the question box. Also, I want to give you all my contact information. If you need to reach out to me, my phone number and email are the best ways to get a hold of me. So with that, let me start with some of the questions that we've received. First one is, are property taxes fairly distributed here between commercial and residential properties? I'm not sure in what context this question is being asked, other than if somebody was to say, you know, what's the breakdown by property class? And that's going to vary by county, from county to county. In other words, some counties may have a greater amount of property taxes being paid by residential taxpayers, where other counties there may be more of a balance or an even distribution. So it really depends on the county and the mix of properties. You would think maybe a more rural agricultural based county might see a heavier reliance on residential taxpayers compared to maybe an urban setting where maybe there's a better balance between commercial and residential properties. Next question is, how are we going to better serve our taxpayers? Are we going to be able to see what they're entering so it cuts down on rejections because of lack of information submitted? Well, this goes back to what I was talking about with our communications. That was one of the key areas that we focused on, is how can we help make POP-IN better, and better not only for assessing officials, but better for taxpayers and CPAs and agents and filers. So, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, users and assessing officials now have the ability to communicate directly within POP-IN. And also, as I talked about, assessors have the ability to add private notes for internal messages, and then the ability to add public notes to the filer. Another question we received is, what information from POP-IN, the POP-IN portal, is exported? So from the export side of things, the user must select the desired tax filing year and select one, all, or the user defined category. As far as the export files go, we changed the character length, as I mentioned, of the merchant certificate number. So that's 4 more characters were added. The export name also now contains the filing ID. And then also we are in the process of doing a change, making an update to add a business closure indicator and the associated date to POP-IN. So that's one of the key things that we are working on. We're communicating that with CAMA vendors, because currently, you think about it, there's really no good way for a taxpayer a business to notify the assessor's office that they closed their business as of December 31st, 2021. So we're trying to work on something where there is a way to indicate in POP-IN that the business has closed. And that would be true, if a taxpayer was filing via POP-IN, or if they were filing a hard copy. There is really no good way for a taxpayer to notify the assessor that their business is closed. So that's one of the things we're working on to have in place. Another question was, when putting notes in POP-IN, will they import into InCAMA, and can we change district numbers if they are incorrect, or do we have to reject the filing? So this goes back to the communications area that I talked about, in the 2,000 character limit, and then having both the public or private notes available. The public notes, as a reminder, are visible to all that have authorized access, like the taxpayer, agent, assessors, whereas private comments are only viewable by the assessor. And as I mentioned earlier, private comments can be made public, but not vice versa. And the comment page can be printed, but as I mentioned too, it's not yet available in the assessor export. So basically, users of different roles, if they're accessing a filing at the same time, they'll be prompted by a pop-up when a new comment is added. So communication is a key thing as we try and make POP-IN more efficient, more effective, better for the end user, be it the assessor or the taxpayer. There were a couple other questions that came up. One was a suggestion, and that is to allow the assessor's office to sign into a demo of POP-IN to assist a taxpayer who has called their office to how to maneuver through that system. That is possible, but that's something that we, as far as the DLGF, that's something we're considering. So we appreciate the suggestion. Just a few more questions, and then I'll turn it over to Jenny, and she can help moderate back to any things that we had come up. One is, can we put a note in so we won't have to reject the submission? And yes, you can use the communication messaging tool to inform them of the reason for the rejection. Another question came up is, how would the assessor's office know that it's an amended return? And this is available, or it is on the system that it does state that it is amended, compared to, say, like if you were to receive a paper return where a taxpayer may just write amended at the top. You should be able to see that they are choosing the type of return, that they are indicating it's amended return. If you reject a filing, is there a place to tell them why it was rejected? Yes, again, this goes back to that communication messaging tool to inform them of the reason for the rejection. Question is there a place where they can mark that their business is closed? Well, I mentioned this, talked about this a minute ago. The taxpayer or the agent can share the information via the communication tool, and we're working on an enhancement to allow the taxpayer to mark that the business is closed. Another question that was brought up is there a plan where POP-IN notifies the users of upcoming deadlines, like we currently use postcards through the mail? Well, on POP-IN, the deadline is currently listed on the POP-IN website. And also, one of the things Jenny does is she sends out emails. We have over 9,000 people registered to receive POP-IN emails from our office, and these are weekly emails that we give on various topics that could be, say, the change from 40,000 to 80,000, or how do I do this, or how do I do that. So that's something that we could add or include with our emails or our deadlines, for May 16th. If you would like to be included on those emails, please contact Jenny at jbanks@dlgf.in.gov. And I think that does it for now. Jenny, have we received any other questions so far?
Yes, we do. Our first one is, why would a taxpayer be filing a 2021 return in POP-IN other than an amended return? What reason would a taxpayer have to file in a 2021? Did they have to originally have to file in POP-IN to file an amended? Doesn't this just lead to taxpayers accidentally filing in the wrong year? They already do not know how the years work now.
Yeah, very good question. So in order for a taxpayer to file a POP-IN or to file an amended return, be it in, I think in POP-IN, both in POP-IN and, let me retract that statement. In order for a taxpayer to file an amended return, they must first have filed a timely return for, say, by the May 2021 filing deadline. It brings up a good question. What if you have a taxpayer that files, say, a paper return for 2021? Can they file an amended return in POP-IN? I don't know the answer. That's something I'll look into. And what we do with our questions and answers that come up afterwards, we'll compile all the questions and answers and send them out as a document that you can refer to. So that's a good question, whether or not a person can file a paper return, 2021 and then file an amended in POP-IN. I don't know, but I'll find out. But to answer the question, why would somebody be filing now for 2021? I know some counties towards the end of the year were sending out notices to taxpayers that hadn't filed. And we had several filers file at that time. Certainly, like you indicated before, the only difference between POP-IN and paper return is one's being filed via electronically, be it, through POP-IN. The other is, being mailed or walked into your office. And so, there may be a taxpayer that, for whatever reason, did not receive a notice of assessment and wanted to, go ahead and file for 2021. So it is possible that they could file an original return. We don't see it that often, but it certainly could happen. But more than likely, like I said, you're going to be seeing amended returns versus, an original return. But I will find out if it is permissible or possible for a taxpayer to file, and also make the case, could a taxpayer file via POP-IN their original return and then send in a paper copy amended return? I'll find out the answer to that question. Next question, Jenny.
Yes, if a taxpayer filed in POP-IN last year and did not qualify for the under 40,000 exemption, but now their total without changes, does the POP-IN alert them to the $80,000 exemption?
Yes, on the forms I mentioned, we updated the forms to reflect the changes in the dates, including 2022, and also to update that $80,000 exemption threshold that was updated from the 40,000. So if you go into POP-IN, you should see the $80,000 amount versus the $40,000 amount. Next question.
Okay, the next one is, so does POP-IN now become the official keeper of yearly documentation retention required by state if they filed in POP-IN?
Yes, it should, and that goes back to why should I print off a copy of the return? Because you have it electronically, it's available, so it should meet the records retention, and you would not need to print off copies of the return. So yes, the long answer to a short question, yes.
Here's another question. Statewide, approximately how many filings are there?
So as I indicated earlier, for 2021, we've had over 12,000 accepted personal property filings through POP-IN. Our goal for this year is 18,000. And if you were to look at that from a statewide total of all filings, there's approximately 300,000 personal property filings in the state. Each year obviously is going to change a little, but if you were to use a ballpark amount, 300,000 filings in the state. Next question.
Okay, the next one is what do you do with filings when they just file a 103N or 103O? How do you get them off the list?
Well, I mean, if a taxpayer is filing a 103N or a 103O, they should also be filing a 102 or 103 short or 103 long. Think of it if you had a taxpayer was filing a 103N or a 103O, via paper return, you would probably not accept just a one-page 103N or one-page 103O. You'd want the accompanying, 103 long, short, 102, and a 104. So certainly a taxpayer could file, that 103N or 103O saying, hey, I have leased property, but it belongs to X. If it's an operating lease or a capital lease, however they're filing it. But I mentioned earlier the audit function. How would you audit a return if it was in paper? How would you audit it for POP-IN? And if you received the 103N or 103O only in the mail, what would you do? How would you handle it? You probably would reach out to that taxpayer and say, you need to file a 103 long, a 103 short, and a 104. Next question.
Okay, the next one is we had an issue that when a filing was rejected, the taxpayer called a personal cell phone number. When asked how they received the number, they said it was on the rejection. We changed our phone number and the personal information to the office phone number. Has anyone else had this issue? I believe that there has been one or two situations where this has happened, but I don't know if this has been a continual issue. If there is one, you can put that in the chat message or let us know. I'll be happy to take a look at that and see what we need to do to correct it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that situation either, and I think hopefully also through our upgraded communications tool, being able to have the taxpayer and the assessor communicate, in real time, back and forth. Hopefully that would eliminate it. But I also understand that sometimes you need to have instead of emailing or chatting, you need to have a verbal conversation with the taxpayer to walk them through that. And I'm not sure why a personal number would have been included versus an office number, but sometimes situations like that occur.
Okay, our next question, is there a way to tell if POP-IN was submitted by an agent versus a taxpayer?
I believe when you go to see the filing, it should specify whether or not it is submitted by a taxpayer or an agent, because the taxpayer would need to have the agent's approval to file. So it should be readily available to see if it's being filed by the taxpayer or the agent, especially, think of it, as if you were to receive a paper return, whose name is at the bottom of the return. So hopefully the agent or the CPA would be, indicating that they're the ones filing on behalf of the taxpayer. Next question.
Okay, I think we've got all the questions answered for the moment. We're going to take just a moment. I know our commissioner is on the call, and I think he may want to say just a few words before we wrap up here. But if you do have any questions, please enter those into the chat box and we will get those answered for you today as best we can. We'll turn it over to Wes here for a quick few words, and then we'll go back to the Q&A. Wes?
Hi, Jenny. Thanks, Jenny and Barry. Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate you being on the workshop today, and want to thank everyone for the input. The communication level has been outstanding from both the taxpayer, the agents, the assessors, and we rolled out a fabulous product. We're making it better with your help, and we want to continue to make it better with your help. So please keep those questions coming, keep those recommendations, suggestions for enhancements and improvements coming. We do listen to those, and I hope that you're excited to hear about the enhancements that we've made in the last year and that we're going to be working on for next year as well. So nice job, Barry and Jenny, and nice job to our community of assessors, taxpayers, and agents who use POP-IN. We're really looking forward to how well it's going to be used and increasing the usage of POP-IN for the 2022 filing year. So thank you all, and we look forward to continue working with you.
Thank you, Wes. We do have another question, and we may have to get back with you on this one. I don't know if we've done this data research, but what percent of the 12,000 filing in 21 were filed by an agent/accounting firm? We do have that information. I don't have it in front of me, but we can get that and put that in the Q&A later, unless Barry might be aware of if you've seen that information.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd hate to ballpark it, but certainly when we were designing and getting POP-IN established, one of our goals was to, as I mentioned earlier, make it easier, better, more efficient for both taxpayers and agents. And I think if we can get the API software integrated, that will help increase the number of filings by agents and CPAs significantly. But I don't have an exact breakdown as far as how many were filed by agents or taxpayers. But if you think of your own individual situation in your county, you know, how many returns are you receiving from a taxpayer? How many returns are you receiving from a CPA or an agent? So it's probably a mix. I would suspect, just based on, you know, if you think of the state as a whole, I would suspect that the more larger populous counties, urban counties, would see a heavier number of returns filed by an agent compared to, say, a smaller rural county where you may not have as many agents filing. But we have obviously the number of filings made, but we would have to, as you indicated, Jenny, do further research to be able to specify X percent was done by taxpayers and Y percent was done by agents or CPAs.
I think that wraps up all of our questions that we've received so far. I don't have any in the queue that are pending, so we will leave this open for a few minutes, and we can include any remaining questions in our FAQ document that we will release with this morning's questions as well as this afternoon's questions, so you can reference those. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we will have this information. We'll send that all out, the PowerPoint, the video link, the survey, and the CE form. We will send all of that out tomorrow. It'll also be on the DLGF website under the webinars page, so you'll be able to access that. I did put a link in the Q&A at the top with the link for the registration for the POP-IN office hours. As Barry mentioned, there are 6 of them. We have them designated by district, but if the date that is your district does not work for you, please feel free to register for any of the other sessions. We would just wanted to be able to have smaller groups so that you could ask your questions and get the assistance that you need. So feel free to sign up for the one that best fits your schedule. You will need to scroll down on the personal property page, but you can register on those links at the top. One of the other things that I mentioned this morning is that I do need to fix the link for the signups for the POP-IN emails for both agents and taxpayers. If you as an assessor or assessing official want to be added to the assessor specific emails, please send me an email and we will get you added to that. We do have a large number of people on that list, but if for some reason you're not receiving those, please let me know and I'm happy to add that. The other thing that we added at the top of that page is a link for looking up a taxing district. We do get that question frequently, so we put it at the top so it's very easy. They can click on the button that says find my taxing district, and it will take the taxpayer or the agent to the budget notices page, which will be able to put in the address for the property, and then underneath the map icon, it will show the taxing district that taxpayer is located in. Anyone can use it, and they would just need the address for the property, and they would type that in. So you can feel free to direct people to that if you have questions, or if you want to have that link, we can provide that as well. But feel free to reach out to Barry or I if you have questions. If you have support related questions, please feel reach out to our support email at support@dlgf.in.gov, and we'll be glad to assist you and get back with you. If there are specific technical questions, it may take a day or two to get back with you, but we will answer those as soon as possible so that you can move on and continue your work. So appreciate everybody's participation today. Barry, did you have any closing words?
Nope, I just want to say thank you for your participation, and also thank you for, I know change is difficult sometimes, and POP-IN is certainly something a year old now, but thank you to taxpayers, CPAs, agents, and the assessors for embracing it. So thanks, and have a good rest of your day.